What's up, guys?
Hmm. I think it's working now.
What's up, guys?
Is it? Hmm. I think it's working now.
What's up, guys?
Is it? Hmm. I think it's working now. Is it? Hello, everyone. This is a Fox Hunter. Wow. Um, had some problems with Streamlabs. I was fixing the settings and I changed something, thinking that was the right button to click, and next thing you know, I couldn't access my network. So yeah, well, let's see. So yeah, so what are we doing here now? What are we doing? Well, what we're doing is basically um, we are defending or yeah, I'm defending my honor. I think is that the right thing to the? Okay. Well, basically, if you guys remember last time, I about a month ago, actually, on December, I did my first two streams, and that was an experience. The first one was great. The first time I streamed, it was on schedule. I just jumped in, and next thing you know, I was streaming, and I think it went great. But the second time, wow, that was something different. I had all types of uh, problems. My dogs were wrecking the house outside. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, in case that you guys didn't notice, I have a little bit of blood pressure medical issue going on, and yeah, my blood pressure went up at the end of the stream, and I had to end it soon. So hopefully that won't happen today. Let's see. So what am I doing here? Yeah. So basically, on the first stream, I was debunking a couple of Gonzalo Lira videos, and those were, well, let's see, from the first one was from well, it was the first one wasn't really a Gonzalo Lira video. It was more than anything replying to a fellow that had mentioned me in one of his videos. And yeah, that I so after that one, the second video was debunking a let's see, a video made by a guy called that goes by the name the Real Red Bot. What was that? Update available for this. Well, thank you for notifying me. Sorry about that. So yeah, the second video that I was debunking was by a fellow named the Real Red Bot, and I think I was kind of going easy on him. I mean, I told the guy that I like the way he made his video and everything. Um, I thought I was being fair. I was debunking everything that he was saying. And next thing you know, he made a couple of comments on some of my videos. Yesterday, he made a comment on the video that I made about the end of Gonzalo Lira. And after that, we went on a little bit of a going back and forward. And what do you know? He doubled down on the issue of Gonzalo Lira was not a propagandist. So I guess Gonzalo Lira being an RT news contributor was not enough to to show the guy that he was wrong. No, he's doubling down. So I started questioning what is wrong with this guy. Why is he defending Gonzalo Lira? I mean, if he doesn't believe that Gonzalo Lira was a propagandist, why doesn't he look for himself? He is convinced that Gonzalo Lira was not a propagandist. The evidence is right there on the internet. If you look for it, I mean, Gonzalo Lira's own words. He was spreading misinformation on behalf of the Russian government. And next thing you know, I just let me show you guys the conversations that we went through on the comments that he left on my video. Let me see. Hold on one second. Yeah, right here, right here. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. Okay, so right there. So those are the comments that he was leaving on my video. And the first one was kind of weird. Let's see. Hold on one second. Let me. Hold on. Because it's hard for me to read the words. I mean, hold on. Let me. I think. Okay, hold on. So he goes talking about Gonzalo is dead. I need a new grift. Wow, what a way to phrase the. I mean, he's what is this? Talking about Gonzalo is dead. I need a new grift. Wow, the grammar hard to understand exactly what is it like. Was that a brain fart or something? Okay, so I replied to him. Let me see if I'm having problems. Hold on one second, please. Yeah, the monitor where I have my other my the yeah my the monitor that I'm using is hard to read. What it's hard to read the words, so I had to open the comments on a different screen and go through it. So yeah, so I can read it better. So here it goes. So I replied to the guy, could you please put effort into researching your videos? When you claim that Gonzalo was not a propagandist, it shows that you don't know what you're talking about. By the way, this comment that you wrote makes me wonder, is English your second language, or are you just bad at using it when writing? Oh, and to make it a grift, there has to be money involved. Neither your channel nor mine are monetized. So where is the grift you're mentioning? This is a public service. My channel is a public service. I know I'm not monetized, but I still, want to keep people informed of who Gonzalo Lira is or was, so that they don't feel like an injustice was committed against the guy. No, the guy did some bad things and he paid with his life, and that's all on him, right? But Real Red Bot reply. He replied with at Facts Hunter 187. My latest video about Ukraine's Maidan massacre was pretty thoroughly researched. I don't believe that for one bit. I don't believe at all. So let's see. Trust me. No, I don't trust you. Okay. A lot since this video came out. Trust me, I've learned a lot since this video came out. Also, this comment was more joking, as talking about Gonzalo at this point is just for hashing out very minute details. For example, as you assert that Gonzalo is an RT propagandist, which I also read from another commenter. But the only evidence found of Gonzalo doing work for RT in the capacity was performed pre 2014 Ukraine. It doesn't make any logical sense that if Gonzalo was in any official capacity working for the state-sponsored news outlet like RT, that they will even allow him into Ukraine, as since 2014, the Ukrainian government has taken radical measures to ban non-Ukrainian news and keep out anyone they thought was affiliated with Russia. Furthermore, after seizing all his gadgets, the Ukrainian government still failed to provide any evidence of him giving away troop movements or really any of their claims, because it's the Ukrainian government. They make shit up, imprison people without due process, and kidnap men in broad daylight so that they can go die in a pointless war. He's calling the invasion of Russia into Ukraine a pointless war. It's not pointless if a government is trying to steal your country. That might be pointless to you because you lack the capacity of understanding. But for Ukrainians, it's not a pointless war. They are defending their country and their future, the future of their children and the future of their generations. You don't understand that. I don't know why. There might be something wrong with you, but let's keep moving. While my personal disdain for Gonzalo is pretty clear in my video, based off all the facts I have outside of the divorce, which was side note in my video. Yeah, we saw it was a side note. You didn't even read the paperwork. Yeah. I even now have zero reason to believe that the narrative the Ukrainian government and the SBU pushed about Gonzalo, even years after his death. One thing is for sure, though, I'm never stepping foot in Ukraine. Oh my God, poor Ukrainian people, they will not have the pleasure of having you in their country. Oh my God, I'm never stepping foot in Ukraine. My fuck. Oh my God. Okay. So I reply, Gonzalo's fans have accused me of being a grifter. So it's a bit of a trigger word for me. I try to be as honest and transparent as possible, but for some people, that's not enough. It's cool. I know you were not being malicious. And yeah, the first time your comment, I thought it wasn't malicious, but when you use the word grifter, yeah, I don't know if you're talking about you or me. But anyway, so second, Gonzalo was a propagandist against the West and went out of his way to become an RT News contributor, claiming the dollar was going to fall. But since he was only an economist blogger, he didn't pose a real threat to the war effort. The day of the invasion in 2022, RT broadcast his YouTube videos And that's how he got kicked out of the hotel he and a bunch of other journalists were staying at. If Ukraine were as extreme as you claim it is, they would have disappeared him that same day. This makes me doubt if you truly did research for your latest video. Yeah, you're biased against Ukraine. You think that they are these as killers, these vicious, evil people, and even you even think that they have the capacity of betting everybody that goes into their country. Dude, so many people have tried to kill Zelensky. Some of those people were even in the Ukrainian army. There's gonna be a lot of people that get away from the system, and not only that, but Ukraine is in the middle of a crisis. They don't have the time to be searching every person's background. Gonzalo Lira got married to a Ukrainian woman, had 2 kids in Chile, and was able to go inside into Ukraine. But just because he was a blogger, an economist blogger, he posed no threat to Ukraine. He was a contributor for RT News, but that doesn't mean that he was as somebody to worry about. You know, later after they found out that he was, on the side of the Russians, that's when he became no. That's how they spot him. That's how they decided to go after him. But they don't have the people, the assets to vet every person that goes into the country. Well, now they do because they have the support of NATO. They have now a lot of money to pay people to and equipment to vet who comes in and out of Ukraine. But not back then. In 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea, President Obama sent them blankets. That's how little support they had. They didn't have the enough money to pay people to investigate everybody who went into Ukraine. I don't know how that doesn't compute in your brain. You think that they have these like multi computers back in 2014 where they could like spot with cameras who goes in and out of the country? My God, dude, in what world are you living? Okay, so let's keep going. Let's see. So what did I say? Yeah. So number 3, the reason why you can't find evidence of Gonzalo's activities with relation to him sharing troop positions is that a lot of that information is still classified. Yes, a lot of that stuff is still classified. And I'm going to show you how I know that. Just because you didn't do the work, now I'm here uploading a video, streaming, about to show you how little effort you put into your research. Okay, so let's continue. Let's see. The Ukrainian government has a lot of information about Gonzalo, and they are not releasing it until the war is over. Dude, they are in the middle of a war. They can't be careless and spread information all willy-nilly. Ukraine making shit up. Says the guy who claimed Gonzalo nuked his channel because of his divorce. If you would have read the papers, you would have seen that the guy didn't give a shit about his kids. So, what a dumbass. Okay, but if you want any evidence, all you need to do is check his Telegram account. In there, he uploaded pictures of troops traveling in a bus to the front lines, and he also uploaded a picture of a howitzer in the center of a town square. That was incredibly reckless. I got angry when I saw that picture. Yeah, a howitzer tank was in the middle of a town square. and he took a picture from, I think, I don't know if it was his apartment building or some building upstairs. He took a picture. If the Russians would have seen that picture, they would have started bombing that place. The guy was careless sharing that information. He put a lot of people in danger when he uploaded that picture. But you don't you don't think about that. I mean, you didn't look through the telegraph through his Telegraph account. My God. But that okay. So let's move on. Number 4, dude. After watching your video and debunking it on real time, I'm convinced you don't know shit about the war in Ukraine. And yeah, I believe you don't know shit about the war in Ukraine. Tons of YouTubers have been covering the war since it started, and after watching them regularly, I can say with 100% confidence that you don't know shit about Ukraine. My go-to on the war of Ukraine's are Jake Bro, Dennis Davidoff, Dylan Burns, Preston Stewart, Arthur Rehi, and many more. Some of these guys have been in Ukraine, and I believe their word over yours absolutely and with no doubt. I was thinking about watching your video about the Maidan massacre, but now I know that I will be wasting my time if I do. And then he replies, Fax Hunter 187. I actually laughed aloud when I read that information about Gonzalo's arrest and actual evidence of his wrongdoings are classified. In fact, I think your own personal dislike for Gonzalo is clouding your judgment, as you seem to be under the impression that Gonzalo was more of a liar than the Ukrainian government. Such glaring cognitive dissonance makes you impossible to take seriously. I don't care if you take me seriously. I seen your channel. I'm gonna show everybody your channel in a second. So I don't care about your opinion, whether you take me seriously or not. But okay, so I reply, of course you laugh aloud when I said that Gonzalo's evidence was for wrongdoing was classified, because you are under the impression that I make things up just like you did. Yeah, you lied on your video when you claimed that Gonzalo nuked his channel because he wanted to win custody of his children on the divorce court. That was your lie. There is no evidence whatsoever that he nuked his channel for that. And then, thankfully, somebody from the chat gave a very reasonable response, claiming that the reason why Gonzalo nuked his channel was because he was trying to get revenge against YouTube, because he didn't want YouTube to make money out of his videos, because supposedly YouTube was censoring red pill content, which was, reasonable. Nothing but hate against women and not a bunch of other shit. But anyway, so let's move on. Let's see. You're not. Oh yeah, hold on. Let me. Let's see. Where am I? Over here. Yeah. No. Official capacity holder. Oh shit! Did I skip? No. I apologize. I was reading without noticing that. I needed to expand the screens. Okay, hold on. So, dude, after watching your video on debunking in real time, okay, I already did that. Okay, down here. Yeah, I apologize. I was reading. I'm telling you, I'm gonna get better at streaming. This is my third stream, live stream, and a bunch of problems already with the software and everything. But okay, so let me move on. Let's move on. So let's see. Number 4, dude. After watching, okay, this. How else I was able to read the? Okay, yeah. You're talking this seriously? Okay. So let me start from this one right here. Of course, you laugh a lot. Let me go to the you see my channel is not like yours. I don't make videos to try to cash in the vibes. I present facts and data to back them up. I have the data to back up my comment, which you found amusing. But you don't know about that data because you don't do the research. Yeah, you don't do the research. That's why you don't find any evidence, but you're there claiming that uh, there is no evidence to prove that Gonzalo was guilty. If you don't look for it, you won't find it. You- Dude, don't be lazy. Do the research. But okay, that's why I'm here to show the stuff that you are not looking for. Okay, so how else I was So how else was I able to read the Ukrainian divorce papers live on stream and debunk your video? It took me a few minutes, but I showed on screen that your claims were false. I can do the same thing with your comment. I can show on a live stream that Gonzalo's crimes are currently classified by the SBU because revealing them could expose information that could harm secret agents working on behalf of the Ukrainian government. Ukraine is fighting against Russia. They are on a life and death struggle and they are not playing around. But to you, this is a joke because you are not a serious person. Yeah, you're not a serious person. How about this? Go look for the video of an interview between Kim Iversen and Sarah Ashton-Cirillo. That's the place where I found out about Gonzalo's crimes and collaboration with Russia. We're gonna watch that video in a moment. I found that video through work by doing research. You know that thing you don't like doing? Be a grown up and do some work. I told you, go watch that video. That's where you find out that everything about Gonzalo is classified right now. And it's understandable. They are in the middle of a war. They cannot be divulging information like if it was something regular. We live here in America. I'm right here in California. We're under no stress. You find out information really fast. In Ukraine, things are different. Every night, Russia is bombing the cities, killing people. That's why they have to be careful with what they share with the world. They are fighting for their lives. That might be difficult for you to understand because you're not all up there. But if you were living in a war, in a place, in a war-torn country, your perspective will be different. But you're not. You're comfy right there in your place, streaming, making videos, whatever the f you're doing, dude. You cannot put yourself in the shoes of the people in Ukraine. That is a problem that I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. So the reply was Fox Hunter 187. So you cannot produce any real evidence of the Ukrainian government's crimes about why they arrested claims. I'm sorry. Government's claims about why they arrested Gonzalo Lira. Imagine my surprise. LOL. Keep making your slap, buddy. I'm not sure. I'm sure the world's truth seekers are saluting you as we speak. And then a clown face. And I go, oh, so you don't want to be an adult and go watch that video that I told you. You couldn't even search for the video? What is it too hard? I mean, like typing words it's too much work. Okay, so it's a video of a Ukrainian government former service member speaking about Gonzalo's crimes. Okay, I guess I have to do it on a live stream. No problem. I'll have it done tonight, and here I am. I had some problems with the software, but I got it done now. It's working now. It's running. I don't know if people are watching. Let me see. Are people watching? I hope not, because it's, let's see. Oh, 3 people watching. Well, one of them is me, because I have this window up open, so I can check if it's working or not. So there's 2 people watching. Thank you for joining. I'm sorry. Yeah. So let's see what else. So what am I going to do tonight? Let's see. It's 5:44. Wow, it's been already 45 minutes, and I haven't gone to the main source. Okay, so what am I going to be doing tonight? So what I'm going to be doing, and this is kind of important for me to share with everybody. This past weekend, the second American was killed by ICE. It was a rough weekend. I was emotionally torn. Not gonna lie. But when I saw, the real red bots comments, that was some motivation for me to jump in and start streaming. My last stream was very messy. Like I said, at the end of the day, I had my blood pressure was up. I was very stressed because my dogs were barking in the background. The Note LM wasn't finding the information that I was looking for. It was a mess. But I want to get good at this. I want to get good at the streaming, and I am going to try to stream every day, because now I have a purpose. After the second after the second American citizen killed by ICE, I have come to the realization that we need to start speaking out. We need to start talking and speaking against the government, because Trump is trying to destroy this country, and he's killing people to get away with it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start streaming. As I'm gonna try to stream every day, and I'm gonna be giving news of what is going on, because this year is important. This year is the year of the midterms. We need to organize ourselves. We need to we need to help the Democrats win back both the House and the Senate, so they can impeach Trump and kick him out of office, because he wants to turn this country into something different, and that cannot happen. That cannot happen. I'm not okay with letting that happen, and I have my reasons. But going back to the explanation of what I'm doing today in this stream, the first half of this stream, we are already like 35 minutes into this stream. And so what I'm going to be doing is, first, we're going to watch that video that I mentioned about Teen Iversen. Will I'll hear we're gonna watch that video where we find out why Ukraine, or what type of crimes Ukraine was charging Gonzalo Lira and why they put him in jail. We'll watch that video. That video is not in YouTube. There is a small preview of the video on Kim Iversen's channel, but the full video can be found on Rumble. And that video, well, obviously, since it's not in YouTube, not that many people have seen it. So I'm going to be watching, reacting to that video on real time. And obviously, you have to understand, to avoid copyright claims, I'm going to be pausing constantly, giving my input into the video, but we'll watch the most important parts, which is the parts where they talk about Gonzalo. And after that, I'm going to try to make a quick input into my opinion of what happened, or why it is important for me to start streaming more often and transform this YouTube channel into an anti-Trump channel, anti-Republicans channel. I am not a leftist. I am a centrist. I don't know if I should call myself a moderate. I have left-leaning preferences, because the Republicans, as you can see, a lot of them are fucking assholes, and I'm not okay with what they're doing, you know. But okay, so I'll go more into that after we're done watching the first video. And so yeah, I hope you guys stick with. I mean, how many people are watching right now? Let me see. 5 people. 4 people. One of those guys is me. I have my other YouTube account checking that everything is going okay. So welcome everybody who is here. 4 people. Thank you very much for coming. We're gonna watch the Kim Iversen video. This video cannot be found on YouTube. It's on Rumble, as you guys can see. I'm going, as I mentioned already, I'm going to be pausing often to avoid a copyright claim, because I don't trust Kim Iversen. I don't trust this lady right here. I don't like her. I don't like her because I think she's biased. I think she's a liar. She's not to be trusted. I don't think she's that smart. And I'm going to show you guys why I think all of that about her. But I do have to give her some credit, because she's going out of her way to talk to this person, Sarah Ashton-Cirillo. Right now we're gonna watch the video, and you guys will, if you guys don't recognize that name, you will. If you've been following what happened to Gonzalo Lira, if you remember what happened to Gonzalo Lira and all that stuff, you will remember her or him. So let's go. Let's start. As I mentioned already, this video starts at 5:05. We're gonna be pausing now and then because I want to avoid a copyright claim. And after that, yeah, we'll take it from there. Okay, so let's start watching.
Hey guys, welcome to the Kim Iversen Show. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to jump right into it because.
Okay, that's 1.25 speed. I think I think I'm gonna slow it down a little bit, because I think that's too fast. 1.25. I'm just gonna keep it in normal. I apologize. Like I said, this is my first live stream, and a lot of things went wrong the first couple of minutes. But okay, so let's keep going.
We've got a very controversial guest on tonight's show, someone I've been openly critical of from the beginning of the Ukraine-Russia war. And frankly, I'm surprised they agreed to come on. In fact, they asked to be on, which is even more surprising. So you may recognize the name Sarah Ashton-Cirillo. Sarah is a former political consultant from Las Vegas who rebranded as a war correspondent, then enlisted in the Ukrainian military, and eventually became a spokesperson for Ukraine's Territorial Defense Forces. But for many of us, that's not how he came onto the radar. Sarah became notorious not for journalism, but for targeting fellow journalists. Most notably, he helped orchestrate the takedown of Gonzalo Lira, an American YouTuber living in Ukraine who dared to question the narrative of the war. Now, Lira criticized Zelensky, calling out what he believed were lies about events like Bucha, and refused to flee the country. And for that, he was arrested by the Ukrainian SBU, with Sarah actively cheering it on. Now, Sarah even testified against him in court. He posted videos labeling Lira a Russian propagandist and justified his imprisonment as a necessary consequence of information warfare.
Just over a year ago, our security forces arrested the Russian propagandist Gonzalo Lira. People screamed out at the time that he was a journalist. He was engaging in his free speech rights. Next week, the teeth of the Russian devils will gnash ever harder.
Okay, as I mentioned, I had to pause now and then because otherwise copyright strike, right? So maybe you guys that are watching now remember who this person was, right? I don't know why, but a couple of times when I mentioned her, well, her or him, when I mentioned this person, sometimes I will use the wrong adjective and people will get into my case because of it. And I will go like, I'm sorry, I don't know how to refer to a transgender person. Yeah. If they look like a woman, I will call them her. If they look like a man, I will call them a him. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not trained into, calling people by their genders. So I'm sorry if that is too simple-minded from me, but transgenders people, the whole issue, it's a little bit out of my range because I don't have experience on that. But anyway, yeah, so maybe you guys already remembered this person. So let's keep watching.
And their rabid mouths will foam in uncontrollable frenzy as the world will see a favorite Kremlin propagandist pay for their crimes. So this morning, I testified in the case of the Ukrainian authorities against Gonzalo Lira. I can't say anything else beyond that based off of national security issues. However, I will say that Mr. Lira was healthy. I'll begin by offering my condolences to his family and my prayers to them and to Gonzalo's soul, that they are able to find peace and Gonzalo is able to find redemption with the Lord now that he is no longer walking in this world.
Gonzalo Lira died last year in a Ukrainian prison at the age of 55. His father came on this show several times begging the U.S. government to intervene, but nothing was done. While in Ukraine, Sarah was in the Ukrainian armed forces as a combat medic. He was wounded in 2023 in the Donbass. That injury and his growing social media following capitulated him into the new role as the English language face of Ukraine's Territorial Defense Forces. And in one video, Sarah warned Russian propagandists that Ukraine was coming to get them. In another, he implied that foreign journalists could be targeted for simply reporting in a way he didn't approve of. And it was reported that Sarah was forced to detransition and was later suspended from his role as a spokesperson in September of 2023, with reports that Ukrainian officials claimed his statements were not authorized and caused diplomatic embarrassment. But that's only part of Sarah's story. Before heading to Ukraine, Sarah Ashton-Cirillo, then operating in Nevada politics, embedded himself in Republican circles under the guise of conducting opposition research on right-wing extremism. And he organized political events at his home, built trust with GOP operatives, and facilitated contacts between them and the Proud Boys to rally outside the Clark County election office after the 2020 election. And later, he leaked internal communications that exposed racist and anti-Semitic messages within the Nevada GOP, leading to the expulsion of several members. Sarah also traveled to Turkey during the Syrian civil war, where he met with Syrian refugees and opposition activists. His experiences formed the basis of a self-published book titled Along the Tracks of Tears, in which he chronicled the suffering of Syrian refugees and criticized the Assad regime. However, Sarah later stopped the circulation of the book, claiming it wasn't authentic, didn't represent reality, And Sarah now says Islamic terror is the West's greatest threat.
So, as you guys can see, this person is the real deal. Ashton-Cirillo, Sarah Ashton-Cirillo was present when Gonzalo was being tried in court. Him, he testified against Gonzalo. He made the case. He had access to all his paperworks, right? So this person words, in my opinion, at least, is valid. I mean, if now, for some reason I'm thinking that this guy, the real red bot, maybe this is not gonna be enough for him, because this guy is definitely biased against Russia. I mean, he's biased against Ukraine. And actually, you know what? Let's go. Let me just go see this person really fast. This real red bot. I want to show you guys his YouTube page. Let's see. Real red bot. Let's see. So this guy right here. Can an American speak perfect Russian for 10 minutes straight? Dude, why do you want to learn? Why do you want to learn to speak Russian? What the hell is wrong with you? Okay, so let's see. Why is Moist Critical grifting still a thing in 2026? You don't like Moist Critical? Okay, I'm not gonna criticize, but that's weird. And 4chan. Well, yeah. So Russian murder hospital. He got some videos. He's fixated into Russia. What? Why are you so pro-Russian? Are you pro-Russian? So is that why the name Red Bot? Because of the Russians, the red communist? Is that what's going on? This guy is a pro-Russian bot? Okay, you know what? I'm starting to dislike you. I'm really starting to dislike you. Okay, so this is it. This is who he is. He's anti-Ukrainian because he's pro-Russian. And he doesn't like Gonzalo Lira. He claims that he doesn't like Gonzalo Lira. I don't believe you, what you're saying. I don't believe what you're saying, that you don't like Gonzalo Lira. How are you not gonna like Gonzalo Lira and still you don't have a problem? You have a problem because you don't believe that he was a Russian propagandist. You're contradicting yourself. You hate him, but you like Russia, but you don't believe that he was a Russian propagandist. You're weird, dude. You're weird. Anyway, I'm starting to dislike you. Okay, so let's keep going. I'm sorry for the interruption. Like I said, but oh well, let's keep going.
Now, fast forward to just last month. Sarah publicly stated, "Now that Biden is no longer in office, I can finally tell the truth." A stunning reversal from someone who spent years acting as the mouthpiece for the Ukrainian government, pushing official narratives and silencing dissent. So what exactly was he lying about? And more importantly, why did he so aggressively and relentlessly target Gonzalo Lira, a fellow American and independent journalist? We're about to find out. Are you a yo-yo dieter? You diet, lose weight.
So, as I mentioned, I'm going to skip to minute 9:42, because this is like a commercial for her channel. Yeah, so let's see. There you go.
20 at takelean.com. Sarah Ashton, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
It's good to be here, Kim. I saw you had put out a request for guests, and I wanted to get outside the echo chamber, and I figured with you having commented on my history in the past, it might be a good moment to do so.
Yeah, I mean, look, props to you for being willing to do that, for reaching out and for being on the show. A lot of people absolutely would not do that, so I think it's I think it's great and interesting that you're here, and I'm very interested in having this conversation. So I want to first we have to address the elephant in the room first, and that is your changing appearance, and so
Yes. Okay, so this is where I'm going to pause it really fast because they're going to start talking about Sarah Ashton's gender, right? That's a little bit unrelated to what Gonzalo Lira's case. So I'm going to skip it because obviously that's unrelated. Obviously, if you guys are interested in watching the full video, you guys can find it on Rumble. I don't know if I can put a link to this video on the descriptions down below. I don't know if YouTube has anything against promoting Rumble, but to play it safe, if you're interested, the name of the video is right there. You guys can go watch it. But I'm going to skip to let's see, minute 21. That's when they stop talking about his gender thing, and they start talking about Gonzalo. Okay.
One more point. Sorry to speak over you, Kim. I'd like to add one more point to that.
Yeah.
I don't think without what I would say the trauma of war, I don't think without that I would be in this position, meaning regarding the dysphoria right now. And so it's had me really wondering about the genesis of what it is to be transgender. I was always okay with, and not to go off topic too much, but I was always okay with sexuality, of being attracted to men, etc. I never felt it was a burden. And so ultimately, I had always wondered, why the heck am I like this with the dysphoria? I mean, from 8, 9 years old, I would go to the library and try to figure it out. And so it really has me wondering about the genesis of what it means to be transgender, et cetera, wholly separate from, obviously, sex and sexuality.
Well, I guess we have to throw all the trans into the military after all, right? I mean, they're trying to take trans out of the military. Maybe we just got to send them all to war, and that'll cure you. I don't know. Like, that's interesting. I'm sure when you have that experience of life and death, that's always altering for people. I think is that when you're staring death down. Okay, how did you get into the SB? So were you not what were you in? Were you in the SBU? Were you a spokesperson for the SBU? How did you get? Were you just one of those Americans that you, just like Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s son, signed up to go fight in Ukraine, and you're able to do that? And how does that process where do you go to do that?
My story was really wholly different, and to the point that I'm sure some people are going to be watching and screaming "Fed" or something like that from your audience.
Well, are you a Fed?
It was a slow time. What's that?
Are you a Fed?
No, of course not. But I'm laughing because so many people regarding the situation with Lira were screaming that.
Yeah. So, pausing really quick. I shared his feelings. People were accusing me of being a Fed too. Some people were claiming that I was Fed because I was on most of my first videos. I was not showing my face. I think I have like 50 something videos in my channel, and I only started showing my face on the on last year's few videos that I made. So a lot of people were thinking that I was a Fed. Some people accused me that I was working for the Ukrainian government or something, trying to debunk Ukraine. Gonzalo Lira. No, I was doing that because I was trying to create awareness of who Gonzalo Lira really was. And at the end of the day, I don't think that really mattered after all, because nobody remembers who Gonzalo Lira is anymore. Nobody cares about Gonzalo Lira anymore. My videos, very few people watch my videos because Nobody gives a shit about that guy. he yeah. So okay, so let's keep watching. Let's keep watching.
And
okay.
being involved in Nevada politics, especially midterms of 2022, slow time, and sometimes in Nevada, especially Clark County, Las Vegas, we think we're the center of the universe. So I had a couple of weeks in March of 22 where I had previously focused on refugees in 2015, 2016 with some of my writing. I said, let me take 2 weeks, fly over to Poland, and go ahead and check out the refugee story, and maybe I can tie it in to that stuff I saw and wrote about in 2015 and 2016. I ended up crossing the border. I came across the border, and I was asked by 2 security officials to go with them to Kharkiv to report on the war, because they said a lot of folks were leaving Kharkiv and they didn't know if the city would fall. And I didn't know what I was signing up for. When I say signing up, I didn't even know what I was doing, going to the frontline city of Kharkiv in March of 2022 with these guys from the security services.
Mm-hmm.
I go over there. I end up embedding with them. And it was life-altering in and of itself. But I was a civilian journalist who ended up, it was like the frog in the pot where you don't realize you're getting boiled. And I'm there and I'm reporting, and I was writing regular columns for LGBTQ Nation, mostly like human rights columns. And at that point, I was learning what it was to be a war correspondent, because I'm embedded with these security services.
Mm-hmm.
The moment that things really changed for me was, in retrospect, a throwaway tweet by me. A source messaged me. It was, I believe, a Sunday morning or Saturday morning. It was third week of April. Source writes to me, there's this American trader got arrested this morning. My sourcing wasn't SBU or the security services. It was another civilian who reached out to me. And because I was in Kharkiv, they reached out to me. So I tweeted out, Russian asset, I think it was, or whatever, Russian asset Gonzalo Lira arrested this morning. I had never heard Gonzalo Lira's name prior to that tweet in my life.
That's very refreshing to hear. I mean, that's very refreshing for me to hear, because the same thing with me. I found out about Gonzalo Lira because of the war. I wasn't into the red pill or anything. I wasn't even into YouTube back in, no, wait. No, yeah, I was watching already YouTube videos, but I mean, when the war started, that's when I found out about Gonzalo Lira. And when I found out that he was an American working on behalf of, advocating for the Russians, trying to help the Russians win the war by spreading misinformation. That's how I found out about Gonzalo Lira, and that got me pissed off. Because here's the thing, I'm not I didn't even know that Ukraine existed. Seriously, I didn't even know that Ukraine was was a country. My main thing is that I am an anti-Putin. I am anti-Putin because when he started invading the other countries, like the Chechenian wars and all that stuff, when Putin started killing his opponents and even people who spoke against him, that's when I got angry against Putin. And that's my whole motivation. My beef is not with Gonzalo Lira. My beef is with Vladimir Putin. And because I am a nobody. My channel is not even monetized. I am too small to fight Putin. I took on somebody smaller, which was Gonzalo Lira. By fighting against Gonzalo Lira, that's my way to fight against Putin. So, yeah, when somebody says that I hate Gonzalo Lira, that I'm obsessed with him and all that stuff, it's actually not true. Gonzalo Lira is an effigy of Putin to me. To me, fighting against Putin is pretty much directing all my efforts against making Gonzalo Lira a martyr on behalf of Russia. And yeah, that's my whole motivation. I'm against Russia. I'm against Putin. And now that Donald Trump is trying to become a dictator here in America, now my focus on this channel is going to be against Trump. That's my whole my whole mentality. So yes, I am eager to stop talking about Gonzalo Lira, but this is a commitment that I took. This is the commitment that I put myself into. Every time there is somebody like this guy, the red bot, trying to whitewash Gonzalo Lira's activities, that's when I'm gonna step up and talk against Gonzalo Lira and try to create awareness that no, Gonzalo Lira was not a martyr. He was a Russian asset trying to fight against the West, against America, and trying to help Putin take over the world, or at least recreate his empire, the Russian Empire. So yes, this is not about me hating Gonzalo Lira. This is me hating Putin and hating Donald Trump. So that's my whole motivation. Okay, so let's keep going.
But I knew the source. And so ultimately I said, okay, well, I'll put it out there. And then I went to cover the front lines that day. When I say front lines, there was a lot of rocket attacks in the city and just on the outskirts. The Russians were still a few kilometers just outside the city at that point. It was before the counteroffensive. And when I came back, it was unbelievable the amount of vitriol and sort of accusations that were coming my way. And at that point, the Russians got involved. Maria Zakharova, the spokesperson, she attacked me. I got attacked by Glenn Greenwald, all these other folks. And I would like to say this, I was a C-list influencer in Nevada, C-list writer, journalist. I had a great mentor, a guy named John Ralston. But other than that, I was like, and then to be in the middle of this storm, and I'll never forget this. And I'm not ashamed to say I cried under all the attacks. And I said, I want to go home. And I told the guys I was embedded with, I'm going home. This is not what I signed up for. And they said, no, you don't understand, Sarah. When you get the Russians to respond to you, you not only have to do what you did as a reporter, you have to go all the way. You have to just amplify it. I said, really? They said, yeah, what you did was tremendous. And so that therefore became the beginning of what I refer to as the caricature of Sarah Ashton-Cirillo versus me as the serious journalist.
Man, that vibes with me a lot. That vibes with me a lot because I was feeling the same thing. I mean, not to the point of crying. I did kind of crash out a little bit when I made that video replying to Gonzalo Lira's father, because he was claiming that I was lying about Gonzalo Lira. A lot of people, the Gonzalo Lira's followers, they started attacking me too. That's why I vibe with what he's saying, with what Sarah Ashton is saying. It's like, dude, this guy, Gonzalo Lira, he's not a good person. He is not someone that should be praised or cheered for. He's a scumbag, and he deserves to be in prison. and people just it just won't get in through people's heads, and that was very frustrating, and it was very aggravating. And now that I hear him, what the suggestions that he was getting, that Sarah Ashton was getting, saying that no, when the Russians, when you get the attention of pro-Russian people, that's when you have to double down, and that's why I continue, and that's the motivation of making even more videos about Gonzalo Lira, and so that's why I'm vibing with what this guy is saying, and I'm glad to hear that kind of stuff is very I don't know what to say. It's like it's healing. It's healing to hear that kind of stuff. But okay, let's keep going.
And that's also what brought me into the world of IPSO and PSYOPs, et cetera, et cetera. And a couple of months later, I was asked to join the Defense Forces. I was never in SBU. I worked with SBU on a couple of cases. I recently left the Defense Forces as a sergeant in what's known as GER, or Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, where it was intelligence work. My work was not just IPSO, I'll say that. I did a lot with other real intelligence. Most of the IPSO and most of the PSYOPs was just cover, or as I refer to it as like candy. And my real work was basically obfuscated by the public persona.
What is the difference between Defense Forces and the SBU?
SBU it'd be the equivalent of, like, SBU would probably be a loose equivalent to FBI. So internal sort of security forces, whereas the military, whether it's GER, Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, would be the equivalent of like our DIA in the United States. And then obviously the Army is the Army. And then the Ukrainians also have a foreign intelligence service, but I had very limited contact with them because that's mostly dealing with stuff outside the country.
Okay. Were you paid?
I was, as a soldier, absolutely. I was paid up until last month. Not a lot of money. My starting wages were 20,000 hryvnia, which is about 500 a month. And when you're in combat, you get paid a lot more. So there was about 5 months where I was either actively involved in combat at what we call the zero line, or stationed along the Russian border, where you received more money. And then when they brought me back to Kyiv, when you saw what I was doing with Russia Hates the Truth and the other work, then at that point, because of my promotions, et cetera, I was getting equivalent of about $900 to $1,000 a month.
Dude, $1,000 a month to fight the Russians. Life is so unfair, dude. Life is so unfair. It's like you have the Russians. They were paying some podcasters like Tim Pool and those assholes. They were paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars to promote Russian propaganda. And the people who are actually on the front lines, actually putting their lives on the line, trying to fight against, the invasion, $1,000 a month. It's so unfair. Life is so unfair. The evil, fighting evil is not a profitable career, unfortunately, in this world. Unfortunately, that's how life is. Okay, so let's keep going.
Did they tell you, were you given directives to talk about Gonzalo Lira, or was that something you were doing on your own?
That was pretty much me going with what I knew was to aggravate the Russians. Now, there's two separate sides of the Gonzalo Lira, or two separate time frames of the Gonzalo Lira situation as tied to me. There was his initial apprehension in April of 22, where he was detained, I think, for about 6 days. He was then released. In February of 23, a new investigation began because he never left Kharkiv. He was allowed to leave. And when I reached out to you to be on the show, I said I want to talk about some of the specifics of why Gonzalo Lira, in my eyes and in the eyes of some of my colleagues, was not a journalist. His accusations, and I'm not here to defend the United States, I'll call out BS as it is, but his accusations that the State Department abandoned him
were not only false, he actually went to the State Department and was issued a new passport to be able to leave Ukraine, and he chose not to leave.
So see, this right here, I have to point this out. Kim Iversen or Iversen, I don't remember. I don't know how her last name is. She thought that by bringing this guy, that she was going to be able to like debunk everything that he said. And right now, as we're seeing, we're seeing that this guy is actually debunking Kim Iversen. He is saying the thing that I've been saying all this time, that Gonzalo Lira was not a journalist, and that the State Department actually did contact him, and that he had access to people to help him to get out of the country. That's what he's saying right now. As you guys can see, this is not what Kim Iversen thought that she was going to get. Now Ashton-Cirillo, Sarah Ashton-Cirillo, is debunking Kim Iversen as we speak, like right now on this video. This is good. This is what I like. Yeah. So let's keep going.
And I have a copy of that passport because I was working on the investigation. During the trial, the day I appeared, it almost was canceled because the video recordings for audio for both the Chilean consul and the U.S. consul, who had a permission to be in on every one of his sessions in court, they were not able to get it through, and they gave him the opportunity to cancel the session, and he turned it down because I think defendants are allowed to directly question witnesses in court. So not only was the prosecutor asking questions of me and the defense attorney, but Gonzalo himself had the right and engaged in that right to question my work on this case. And so not only did he have the opportunity to leave, he also turned down both Chilean and State Department consul video feeds. And then the final part was, and I had often said, he was undercharged. I believe he was charged with breaking some law on martial law, speaking out against the state or something. Here's the facts, and I'm happy to share them with you after we go off air. Gonzalo Lira, in his own writing and his own words, because he gave us the password to his iPad, was speaking with a man named Peter Lavelle, who recently became a Russian citizen in the last 2 years, originally from London or somewhere in the United Kingdom. And Gonzalo Lira was actively engaged in attempting to trade information on the Ukrainian armed forces for a show in Russia, be it a documentary or TV show, to the point that he was talking with Lavelle, quote, when he gets to Russia. Furthermore, in something that I found beyond ironic as an American, especially with my criticism of the Biden administration, whoever they were talking about in Russia was referenced as the big guy. And so lastly, the talk about him and his money, he was funneling most of his money through a third party in Germany. He was actively attempting to evade, I can't speak out for what he was trying to do, but the money wasn't coming to him. It was safely held by a third party in Germany. I had access to his text messages with many, many known people, Ian Miles Chong, Jackson Hinkle, etc. This guy was desperate to become famous and desperate to sort of break into the upper echelon of Russian propagandists.
I mean, well, as I say to this jackass, the red bot, that he, what is it, that there is no evidence. What he said, there is no evidence of his wrongdoing. We're hearing right now from the person who helped taking him down. The guy, Ashton-Cirillo, he testified against Gonzalo. He was in court testifying against Gonzalo, helping Ukraine, putting him in prison. the information is coming out straight from the source right now. This guy, the real red bot jackass, he's not going to want to believe this, because in his bias, his pro-Russian bias brain, unless he reads this straight out from the Ukrainian government, he's not going to believe this. Us or us normal people who can call a spade, we can hear this and make sense from it. So this is not about teaching that jackass, the real red bot, the truth. I don't care what he thinks. He's an idiot. But what I care is to tell the truth and to show everybody the truth. I'm a facts hunter. That's why I came up with this name, because I want the truth. I want the facts. And these are the facts. I'm not looking for, fame or profit out of this. I'm just fighting against Putin and Russia. And I'm trying to help Ukraine because I believe that they have a righteous cause. I'm 51 years old. I'm too old to go over there. If I was younger, if I was on my 30s, maybe I would have gone. But this is the best I can do. Help Russia, help Ukraine fight Russia by spreading the truth, spreading the facts. That's what I'm doing. So yes, let's keep going.
And in order to do so, he was willing to really, in my view, go over the boundaries of what was legal. And so some of my arguments, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just so that I can clarify this a little bit. So Peter Lavelle is the host of Crosstalk, which is an RT show. It's a show I've appeared on a couple of times. And so you're saying that Gonzalo Lira was going to trade what exactly in order to get a show in Russia?
He was giving away how things were going at the front lines, what he was observing in Kharkiv, etc. Nothing that Lavelle wrote back to Lira suggested that under the circumstances, I mean, Lavelle was in Moscow. There were pictures where Lavelle was showing sumptuous meals, talking about how there were no issues with war in Moscow. But what I had was Lira more and more desperately attempting to convince Lavelle of his worth and answering questions to Lavelle over, as I said, what was happening in the city of Kharkiv, how the war was going, etc. That's not to mention when he was passing on other messages to other folks in Russia that I can't mention, but because Lavelle is a public figure, I am mentioning him.
But that just sounds like a journalist who's trying to further their career. I mean, that's what all journalists do. We all want to get to a position to make more money. And, I would love to land a job in the mainstream media if they were willing to offer it to me. I mean, they won't. But if they were to, I wouldn't turn it down if they.
It's incredible. It's incredible to hear this coming from her mouth. Kim Iversen. She's constantly spreading misinformation. She's constantly lying on her show, and she's like, "Oh, they won't give me a show. The mainstream news are not gonna hire me. If they would, if they offer me, I would. They're not. They're never going to come and ask you because you are a liar. You spread misinformation constantly. That's why RT News came to you and talked to you and offered you a position, because you're a freaking propagandist. And we're gonna see more of that later on. But yeah, this lady, I don't like her. I really don't like her. She used a piece of my videos, or one of my videos, in her show, and she didn't give me credit. She didn't put the source of my video, on her video. That kind of got on my skin. That kind of got under my skin, because that, I mean, I show some of her videos on some of my videos when she was working at for the Hill, but the name, her name, and the name of the YouTube channel was right there. The clips that she used from my videos didn't have any identification of my channel or the video where she got that information from. So she's an asshole and a liar, and that's why I don't like her. But, to her credit, at least, she's giving me content. Okay, so let's keep going.
They let me say what I wanted to say. I certainly,
more lies.
If I were in a position, like living somewhere and Fox News or CNN reaches out and says, hey, we like your reporting, we want to give you a job, keep telling us what you're seeing. How is there anything wrong with that? I mean, that just sounds like you're trying to, like, wow, okay, somebody's actually recognizing my work. And I mean, it seems no different than what you're saying that Ukraine did for you. Like when you got there and they were like, hey, we like your work, keep going. And so you took that opportunity and also got paid for that.
The big issue and the clear issue on it is he was transmitting this information into Russia, the country that had invaded Ukraine, the country that had actively, carried out questions of war and war crimes. So if Lira was sending it to you, no one would have said anything. If Lira was sending it to somebody in Germany, no one would have said anything. Lira was sending it not only to Lavelle, but others, as I said, directly in Russia. And that was the issue. So it wasn't what he was saying publicly, at least in my view. It wasn't what he was saying publicly about Zelensky or any of these guys. It was that he was directly transmitting information into Russia, a country at war with Ukraine, while he was living in a frontline city. After he had been warned not to do it, because he was released.
Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do understand that, because that would be, if we were to put it in the United States, if we were actively at war with a country, then like Germany during World War II, it would be a crime to then transmit information to Germans, even if they were just German civilians, because you don't know if they're truly civilians or if they're really working for the government or whatnot. So I understand that logic. Did you have some, but again, we don't, I mean, you're telling us this. I could assume there could be some, it's not outside of the realm of possibility for sure what you're talking about, that Gonzalo was looking for a job in Russia. That's, I could see that. But I also could see that RT or the Russians just reached out to him, and, somebody should not be persecuted and certainly shouldn't be left to die in jail just because the Russians want to give you a job.
Okay, so here's the thing, and I hope you, everybody who's watching and listening to this, can follow my train of thought on this. When Gonzalo uploaded that picture of a howitzer in the middle of a town square, he put in danger the lives of everybody who was living nearby that howitzer, because the Russians could have bombarded thrown missiles and drones into that area just to destroy that one single howitzer. That's the reality that this stupid person doesn't get. That when you help the Russians, people die. It's not all about getting a job. It's not all about getting a promotion as a freaking journalist. You're putting people's lives in danger when you help the Russians. And this stupid piece of shit doesn't understand that. She disconnects right away the reality that Ukraine is fighting for their lives, that people are constantly dying because of Russia. And this stupid idiot doesn't get into her head that this is more about the freaking getting a promotion or a better job as a journalist. And this is another thing that pisses me off too. Gonzalo's kids live in Ukraine. And he didn't give a shit about them because he wanted to go to Russia to get a job working for RT News. How are you going to tell me that he had kids and that he cared about his children when all that he cared for was to go to Russia to live a life of a high-paid propagandist, a high-paid journalist? Do you understand why I don't feel a little bit of sorry for Gonzalo? Why I make videos about him after he been dead for so long? Because he was a selfish piece of shit. I hope people understand my train of thought. I don't know if this will get through people, but you guys can see how stupid Kim Iversen is when she completely disconnects her brain from the reality that Ukraine is suffering because of the Russians. Man, okay, so let's keep going.
And maybe you're having some conversation with them back and forth. And I mean, the Russian, certainly RT has tried to recruit me. I've had certain...
what a surprise. RT wanted to recruit this stupid person. I wonder why.
Russian-backed outlets that have contacted me wanting to offer me positions. I've never, I might hear them out, a conversation, and see what do you have to say, but I've never taken anything like that because I don't want to take money from any foreign sources. I mean, that's or not even just foreign sources. I don't even want to take it from the American government. I don't want to take it from anybody like that, from any governments, because I don't want to have a viewpoint. Yeah, go ahead.
If Gonzalo, when he left Kharkiv, he could have left Kharkiv on multiple occasions. I don't even think it would have been an issue if he was reporting from Kyiv or reporting from anywhere else in the country except any of the frontline cities where he was witnessing and viewing and transmitting information regarding what was happening from his view of these frontline cities to sourcing in Russia. It went so far beyond just, hey, can I get a show? I want to be a guest. He was guesting on RT before the full-scale invasion broke out. It was what was being transmitted in a direct negotiation for what seemed like a quid pro quo, where he was actively talking about when he got to Russia. And as I mentioned, I will share with you, and I'll ask you to just keep it to yourself, but share with you the screenshots where he said when he gets there. So he was planning to go to Russia after when he made that quote, run for the border, whatever the heck that was. His final destination was going to be Russia because in other text messages, he said he would have gone across the Eastern Front, but it was too dangerous.
And see right there. You can hear from his own words, from Ashton-Cirillo, that the information that he has, he cannot just show it to everybody because it's sensitive in nature. That's the whole thing. Ashton will get in trouble with people either in Ukraine or somewhere. He will get in trouble if he shares that information because it's still classified. Even if it shows the text from Gonzalo Lira, something as trivial as a few couple of words, it's still that is covered under a blanket of secrecy because Ukraine is not playing around. How many times Zelensky has been, how many times the Russians have tried to kill him? As a matter of fact, there was recently some news about they uncover some Ukrainian officers from the military who were planning on killing Zelensky. That's how deep the Russians are into the whole assassination thing. Putin is a dangerous man. He has killed so many people that has opposed him. You think the Ukrainians are stupid enough to start just, sharing all types of information? Oh yeah, Gonzalo did this and he talked to them and all that stuff. No, this is serious shit. And you know what? Let me show you guys something really fast. Let me show you guys something really fast. That's me right there. I'm a former Navy. I'm a former Navy sailor. I served for 5 years in the military, in the American Navy. When you're in the military, you have to follow orders. You are committed to defending your country. If they tell you that things are serious, don't play around. There's a reason. Okay, so yes, no, it's the real red bot. He doesn't understand that shit is serious when it comes to the war, when it comes to the military. Things are serious. If they tell you don't share information, you don't share information. This is gonna be hard for people like him to understand because he's a shithead. And like I say, you don't play around when it comes to the military. If they tell you don't share information, you don't share it. So yeah, let's keep going.
But so you're saying you think he was undercharged because you think he should have been charged with like being a traitor or a spy, not a something along those lines.
I think an asset. I think an active asset. That's why I referenced him as such. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, the government would have to prove that who he was talking to were actually of consequence, right? I mean, you have to prove that you're talking to, and that the information you're giving is actually of any value. I mean, lots of people were living on the front lines. I mean, the problem with this is that a lot of people were living in Kharkiv or wherever who have, Ukrainians and Russians are closely tied. Many of them have family members in Russia. They're talking on the phone to their Russian family saying the same things. So, I mean, what's the difference between Gonzalo Lira talking to Peter Lavelle about, hey, man, get me a job? Because I'm seeing some of this stuff and I can talk about it. I've had some firsthand experience, unlike someone like me who's never been over there. Why is that persecuted versus, the grandma talking to her sister in Russia?
I think I can give you a follow-up answer to that as well. When he was questioned in April, and as I said, I had nothing to do with that April situation, although I was accused of, actually at one point I was accused of killing him in April of 22, even though I didn't even know who the guy was beyond my tweet. Not only was he released, not only did he have a valid passport from the United States government, the United States government had given him a 6-month sort of temporary passport that you can get in the situation of a crisis that you're supposed to use to leave. He had that passport. He was basically told, you're free to go. And that's why the investigation picked up again in February of 23, because not only did he not go, but there was some questions as to what was beginning to be transmitted again, a post-counteroffensive. And so here was a guy who not only didn't leave, although he had been charged with, or horrific allegations had been made against him in the courts here in Ukraine on family matters, he chose to stay. And that too led to questions over journalism versus asset, because he had already been brought in, questioned 6 days, completely released. The U.S. government had been aware, gave him a passport to go here. He had a passport to leave, I should say. And he chose not to. And then, as I said, it wasn't just Peter Lavelle. he was reaching out, and I would almost describe it as a frantic manner, to a lot of what we would call influencers, right? Maybe conservative influencers, or there were questions as to who he was working for. And I can say he wasn't working for us at all in any capacity, but that's how desperate he was to try to seem relevant. And we know from the messages that he really pushed it beyond what even giving to a source would be. Again, if you're talking Johnny Miller, right? Johnny and I have pushed back and forth on Twitter sometimes. He was working for Press TV, which is Iran's state agency. He was working. But when Johnny Miller got picked up by the Russians for giving away what looked to be air defense locations, I thought that was horrible, because they knew that he was not on the side of anybody, and he chose to be a journalist reporting from Russia. When you're talking about Patrick Lancaster, who was embedded long before Gonzalo Lira, Lancaster was going to the front. People hate him. I think Lancaster is not that serious a guy, but everyone knows that Patrick Lancaster is a journalist in Russia. Gonzalo Lira was something wholly different, never doing reporting, by the way. When I say reporting, it was always just face to camera pontificating while he was actually giving the reports to people in Russia.
See that right there? So while Gonzalo Lira was, doing his videos, repeating Russian propaganda in front of the camera, the real military details, knowledge that he had of the area and the troop movements and all that stuff, he was sending it directly to the Russians. And that right there shows you what a true propagandist is. Someone who promotes misinformation and lies, but underneath shares the most important information with the enemy. That's the nature. That's why I will never feel sorry for Gonzalo Lira. That fucking piece of shit. Burning hell, asshole. Okay, let's keep going.
But how is that different from Patrick Lancaster? I mean, Patrick Lancaster, I think that, I know you don't think he's very serious, but I think anybody who's willing to, I watch his videos, I have a panic attack every time, because that guy put himself right in the line of fire.
He's 1,000% a war correspondent.
Yeah.
When I say he's not serious, I'm talking about the same way people said I wasn't serious when I was there reporting. Sort of the overzealous, over the top, right?
Sure.
I didn't mean serious that he's not a war correspondent. Gonzalo Lira was not Johnny Miller.
But what is the difference? I mean, just because Gonzalo Lira might not have wanted to stick himself in the line of fire, I mean, what is the difference between, Patrick Lancaster was doing frontline reporting. He embedded inside of Russian forces, so he was following Russian forces around. But inside Ukraine, what you would consider to be Ukraine, right? So why wouldn't he have this, or maybe he would? I mean, had he been captured? And it's important for journalists to be able to be anywhere and everywhere and report, and it shouldn't matter which viewpoint they take. I mean, if you're Ukraine, if you're like yourself, let's say you just had a different viewpoint where you're embedded inside of the Ukrainian forces and you're following them around, and why can't you as a journalist change your mind and even be there and say, actually, I don't agree with these people anymore. I think they're on the wrong side of this war. And that shouldn't be, or even if you're not saying even if you're not giving an opinion, but it's still reporting what you're seeing, how is that any different than just because Gonzalo had a negative viewpoint?
We had an Italian journalist. I had met him a couple of times. His name escapes me at the moment, but he had reported in the Russian, what I'd call the Russian channels in 2014, 2015. Then when I say we, because I was in service up until a month ago, Ukrainians gave him a press card. He was reporting from the Ukrainian side, embedded. And then he went to the Russian side during the one of the offensive times near Kherson. He ended up getting blown up by a Russian mine. That said, even him, there was no charges pressed against this guy. I mean, the Russians ended up sending him back to Italy. They went ahead and they questioned him, and then they sent him back to Italy. Again, Gonzalo Lira was reporting extremely delicate information, not in the role of a journalist on the Russian side. He was doing it as a Ukrainian resident or a person living in Ukraine. He didn't have a residency card, but a person living in Ukraine, in an unoccupied part of Ukraine, had been warned about it, was living in a frontline city, and then was passing it not just to Peter Lavelle in an attempt to, when he's talking about trying to get this job, but also to others, which, as I said, are not public and therefore I can't speak about. And that's what separates them. Not the Johnny Miller who's upfront with his reporting, not the Patrick Lancaster, not this gentleman, I'm sorry, his name escapes me, the Italian. Lira was doing it back channel with people that were encoded and going by code names, passing off information that he was not talking about publicly, right? He was talking about other issues publicly, Zelensky and this and accusations, allegations of corruption. But the frontline movements were conspicuous as to what he was not talking about, except to people like Peter Lavelle and others.
So right there, Sarah Ashton, he mentioned the nature of Gonzalo Lira's connections with Russia. He used the word back channels. The back channels, for people who are not familiar with spy and CIA stuff, back channels are secret lines of communications between people. It's not only about spies, but also, for example, the president and other important heads of state. They communicate with each other through back channels. That means encrypted communications, secret phone calls, all that stuff. All of that is sensitive. Once again, as a Navy veteran, I've been taught on how sensitive information can expose full networks and put people in danger. When you are told in the military not to share information, is because there are so many connections. It's like a web. It's like a web. One point, if you find where one point is, you can find where that point ends, and you can reveal full networks of people that they're working undercover. That's why we are not going to hear anything straight out of the Ukrainian government with relation to Gonzalo Lira until hopefully when the war ends and Ukraine is free to share information. That's the nature of war and the military. Sensitive information, as trivial as it might seem, can help the enemy find out where other undercover agents could be. That's why we'll never hear that stuff straight out of the Ukrainian government until after the war is over, when everybody is safe. That's when we will hear. But right now, as you can hear, Ashton-Cirillo is telling Kim Iversen that he is willing to share information with her as long as she doesn't share it with everybody or with anybody. And yeah, that's the nature of war. But people like the real red bot are too stupid to understand those things. Okay, so let's keep going.
But I mean, Gonzalo wasn't really a spy. He wasn't working for Ukraine. He didn't have access to sensitive information. He was just a resident of Kharkiv and happened to be in a city that was the front line. So again,
We had an
that to
American
me is not really
citizen
any
who-
different than like the grandma who's talking to her sister or her cousin in Russia and telling their family members, or even, you know, and maybe her sister or cousin in Russia has a kid that's fighting in the military, and maybe that information could get to that kid, that could ultimately get to the superiors. I mean, there's so many, you know, I think that because Gonzalo wasn't in a position of authority or in a position to gain information, you know, that's why it's.
There was
Go ahead.
There was so much going on around Gonzalo in Kharkiv, in and around Kharkiv with troop movements and such, that from his perch, and why I say his perch, from his apartment, he was able to transmit information directly. And some of those grannies and some of those others have been arrested. And we had an American citizen in October, November of 24 choose to do exactly what Gonzalo was doing. And he got exfiltrated by the Russians when one of the villages fell because he had chosen to go over to the Russian side. And so not only have people been arrested for it, the Russians have brought over to them, considering them assets, folks exactly in the situation of Lira. Lira happened to have a bigger name. Lira had a goal in mind, which was to, in a sense, quote, achieve a higher level profit, get his show or his documentary. And most importantly, he had been asked to stop. He had been released with no charges. He was allowed to remain if he chose. And then he continued to do it. And in fact, increased it.
So why were you asked to testify against him? What was your role in that?
During the time period of when I started living with the security services, March of 22, specifically April of 22, I began to go through courses and classes regarding Russian methods of what we would say IPSO, PSYOPs, propaganda, internal propaganda, etc. So I was asked for two reasons. One, because I was familiar with Kharkiv, being the fact that I was based out of there too. So I knew the area. The second is that I had actually gone through this training and this study of what the Russians could be potentially up to. And then the third is that, and this wasn't stated directly, but as an American, because it involved an American, I was probably asked to come on.
What did you testify?
Well, I can tell you that one of the questions I was asked was, if it was such a big deal, why wasn't American law enforcement involved? And I did testify this was September of 23, but I testified that in May of 23, I turned over Lira's entire file to the Department of Homeland Security. I had been stopped when I flew into Kennedy Airport. They had some questions for me before I was even released to go through. And Lira's case came up at that point, specifically questions over the amount of money that was flowing into this third party in Germany. And other questions such as the contacts with Lavelle. So the Americans were involved, both from the State Department side, which I can't speak for them, but were at least in position and willing and able to not only have issued him a passport, but to monitor the court cases, but also from the U.S. law enforcement side, because I'm the one that personally handed over the files and documents to them.
Yeah, I suppose, I understand the claim that you're making. You know, obviously I haven't seen the messages of who Gonzalo was actually reaching out to. Could we verify that these were, Russian, not journalists or other sources, but instead like state actors who were gathering information to use in the war front? I mean, it's a slippery area because so many journalists have been called traitors. So many journalists have been persecuted and prosecuted for what many of us would just consider being journalism, actual journalism. And there's always a case that could be made on the other side. Somebody could always make the case, but and the argument in which they do, but it's still unless you can show that Gonzalo had sensitive information that he was transmitting to the enemy directly, and it wasn't just RT sources or something. I mean, that's then, we're getting into...
I was a free Assange person, right? I am still a free Assange person. The difference was, even though I didn't like a lot of what Assange put out, Assange took information and he was very consistent. I know people are going to be watching it who are, quote, my supporters are going to say, no, he cherry picked information. But ultimately, he would take the information in, especially the Julian Assange of 2008 to 2014, 15, and just put it out there for the world to see, right? Information should be free.
Okay, gonna pause really fast. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna jump ahead to minute 55, because right now in the next 4 minutes, it's gonna be a back and forward between Kim Iversen and Sarah Ashton, trying to compare Gonzalo Lira with other people who have shared classified information. And this is, this is Kim Iversen trying to still justify what Gonzalo Lira did. Ashton already explained to her what Gonzalo was doing, that he was promoting Russian propaganda in front of the people and then sharing classified information with the Russians behind the scenes. And still, Kim Iversen is trying to help justify Gonzalo Lira's, case. So they go back and forward. I'm gonna jump to minute 55 because, like I said, it's a little bit of irrelevant because it's comparing orange and apples. Gonzalo Lira was an evil, traitor, not only to America, but also to his kids in Ukraine, because he was helping Russia. And still, Kim Iversen is trying to help him and defend him. So let's go to number 55, and let's continue.
And Snowden, again, I don't like the fact that, he is in Russia. He took what he had to do. He did what he had to do. And I would have liked to see an American in Russia speak up a little bit more strongly over what I believe are the war crimes of the Kremlin and some of the hypocritical natures of the surveillance state of the Kremlin.
But now you're being a hypocrite a little bit, because you say Gonzalo Lira deserved to be put in jail for that same thing. I mean, he was criticizing Ukraine inside of Ukraine, and he ended up dead. I mean, so should Edward Snowden take that same tactic and criticize Russia inside Russia?
I wouldn't have charged Lira with whatever he was saying about Zelensky. I would have charged Lira with what I saw with my own eyes, which was the passing of military movements to the enemy, and at least into the enemy's hands, potentially and conceivably. Lavelle worked for a state-run television station. He was a state employee. He was a government employee. Again, Lavelle wasn't doing anything wrong from the aspect of Lavelle's life. He's a Russian citizen now. I believe his son's a Russian citizen too. But Lira was. And Lira also, and you're talking about his death, that guy, while he died very young, it was clear from the autopsy. I mean, I didn't have any insight to the autopsy that you or anyone else also didn't have. But he died of double pneumonia, possibly contracted COVID, and smoking a couple of packs a day, didn't look well. Everyone saw that video when he was at the border, where the guy had very placid skin. Ultimately, he was physically unhealthy. I'm not looking to disparage him further. I mean, the guy's passed on. But he was physically unhealthy in a terrible situation. No one wants to be in prison, especially a prison where you're there in the middle of a war. And eventually, nature caught up with him.
Hey, man, that resonates right here. That's my same opinion. The guy smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and when he was released, the first time when he made that video, claiming that he was tortured, that he had a toothpick scratching the whites of his eyes, that he got punched in the chest, and that he got a cracked spine. No spine. What you call it? Rib. He got a cracked rib. But I have taking worse beatings, so I'm used to it. Bullshit. The guy was in such a bad shape that if he would have gone through the stuff that he claimed he went through, he would have died that first time. So what a fucking liar he was. He was never tortured. Maybe some prisoners, he bumped way too many cigarettes from them and he promised to pay them in return. And then this guy say, hey, where's our money? We sold you one cigarette for $100. Where is that? Where are my $100? You know, and they beat that. Maybe they push him around and they tried to store him. Steal money from his bank account. Maybe that could have happened, but he was never tortured. He was never tortured because he wouldn't been able to survive the stuff that he claimed he went through. Yes. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I would, as far as his being jailed, and the fact is they did not charge him with being a spy. They charged him with just being a journalist. I mean, that is what, and I think the big criticism that many of us have here from the U.S. journalism perspective is, why were we funding a country that, and backing a country that clearly did not have Western values when it came to making these laws against journalists? You know, that is not something that we should have supported or championed or cheered on. And you shouldn't have either, as somebody who's also a journalist who's been to Turkey to report on the Syrian refugees who went.
You know what I would like to see? Kim Iversen get out of her comfy little fucking room and go do war correspondence. Just go over there. Live the life of a war correspondent, and maybe you will understand why, as a journalist, you have to be careful on what you say and what not to say, because you could end up putting people's lives in danger if you say the wrong thing. And that is the reason why nobody is ever going to ask you back in the mainstream networks. Nobody will ever offer Kim Iversen a job in CNN or NBC or one of those, because she's too stupid to understand how dangerous it is to be a war correspondent. How something that you could say could put people's lives in danger. You could get people killed if you say the wrong thing. But no, she doesn't understand it because she's fucking. I'm sorry. I'm losing it with this, but okay, let's keep going. Sorry.
Went to Ukraine. I mean, you do more than other journalists have done as far as putting yourself there and getting in there. And you could have been labeled all kinds of things if you just happen to find yourself on the wrong side of those. But, I think the big criticism we had, the issue is he wasn't charged with what you're claiming that he did. He wasn't. He was charged with journalism, and he died in a jail without the U.S. coming and saying, our Western values are we don't jail journalists for doing journalism. If you want to charge him with a real crime, it's the same thing with what's going
on. Okay, pause really fast because there's that comment. Eduardo Sina 9632. Okay, if you go watch one of my videos, the video I made about Gonzalo Lira, you will hear that when you have your eye scratched with a toothpick, that thing doesn't heal easy, especially if you're in a prison cell, away from any type of medication that you could use to help your white heal. If you scratch the white of your eye with a toothpick, you get an infection. It can get worse if you don't get medical attention. Gonzalo Lira didn't get medical attention in prison, and you never see any of his eyes with any type of damage. So when you say that they poke his pupil with a toothpick, there is zero evidence because he never show which eye. You don't see any problems with his eye. But if you don't believe me, do me a favor. Go try it yourself. Poke the white of one of your eyes with a toothpick and then see if your eye is gonna be okay the next day. See, try to film a video, say, hey, I scratched the white of my pupil and nothing happened. Look, I'm okay. Please use common sense. Gonzalo Lira was never tortured. He lied. He was a liar. Okay? Let's keep going.
Going on with, Mahmoud Khalil, where they can't find an actual crime he did protesting for Palestine. They're pinning other people's crimes on him, right? They see other protesters who maybe smashed something or whatever, and they're saying, well, he was the leader, and so therefore he's got to go to, he's got to be deported. And many of us are saying that's ridiculous. If you can't charge him with a crime, protesting is not a crime in a Western democracy. So we can't.
Again, Ukraine is in the middle of the war, in the middle of a war against Russia. If you protest against Ukraine, you're helping Russia. But that doesn't click into this person's head because she's stupid. She doesn't understand how wars work, how misinformation can help the Russians win the war. But damn, she's so stupid. I hate this guy. I hate this lady.
Can't just arbitrarily, because we don't like this issue, put the guy in jail for protesting. And that's what, and if you want to charge him with a crime, then find the crime and charge him with it. But they didn't do that with Gonzalo Lira. Ukraine created a law that was totally antithetical to Western democracy and journalism. And then they charged him, jailed him, and he died there. And maybe if he wasn't there, I get he was an unhealthy person, but that shouldn't condemn you to death if it can be prevented if you're not in jail, right? I mean, so I think that's
Gonzalo
the beef that
Lira
we have.
had the choice to not be in jail.
How did he have that choice? I
Could have
mean, once
left
he
the
was
country that
incarcerated,
he was not a resident of.
Right. No, I understand your point that he was given the opportunity to leave. And obviously, in hindsight, that's what he should have done. But he had children in Ukraine. He was, he had a lot. How can you just
see right there? Check this out, everybody. Listen to this lady trying to use the excuse that Gonzalo had children in Ukraine. Now, listen to this. She knows about the divorce documents. She knows that Gonzalo abandoned his wife and kids in Ukraine in 2017, that he didn't give a shit about his kids because he wanted to move to Russia and help Russia win the war, because he doesn't give a shit about anybody else but himself. That's why Gonzalo Lira deserved what was coming to him, because he was a selfish, evil asshole that managed to fool people into believing that he was a good person. But this lady, she knows really well that Gonzalo was a stranger to his kids and his ex-wife, and yet she's pretending that, oh, Gonzalo had kids, so it was his right to be near them. Bullshit. Gonzalo abandoned his kids in 2017 to go to Britain to bang women other than his wife, to live a single man's life with making red pill content YouTube videos. So fuck that guy, and fuck this lady too, because she's a fucking liar. She knows pretty well that she has read those documentations, and yet she's, oh, but he had kids in Ukraine. Fucking liar. I'm sorry, I'm cursing more. Hey, you know what? I was a sailor, and people, when you become a Navy sailor, you have the tendency of learning how to curse a lot. So I'm sorry. Okay, let's keep going.
Walk away from your children.
That he was estranged from.
Yeah,
I get it,
Those
but
were
there's
the
a
court
chance that he
filings
wouldn't
that I
be.
referenced.
Right, I understand. I never thought Gonzalo was an upstanding person. I mean, I've read, he's.
See right there? See right there? There, the lie. Just her freaking act just fell apart right there when she said by accident that she read the documentations. She knew pretty well how much of a fucking asshole Gonzalo Lira was. And right there, she spilled the beans. She revealed that she knew, and yet she is here trying to advocate for that guy. That's why you're never gonna get a job working for the main.
But beside how I feel about him, as an individual and the actions of his life,
it's not about your feelings, Kim Iversen. It's not about your feelings. It's about the fact, man. You cannot even be a good broadcaster, a good news anchor, because you go by your feelings. You don't go by the facts. You don't go by the data. You don't share objective truth. You go by your feelings. Oh, poor Gonzalo Lira. He had kids. Yeah, he was estranged to them, but there was a chance. Come on.
Life. The fact is that, I can't judge a person that doesn't want to leave a country that his children are in. I mean, especially even if they're estranged, there's always a chance that you wouldn't be estranged, and you certainly will be if you leave. I mean, you'll never see them again. And so that's a daunting, that's very daunting to stick on a person.
Ashton-Cirillo just told her that Gonzalo Lira wanted to go to Russia and abandon his family, and yet here she is still trying to paint this picture of Gonzalo Lira that was a complete lie. It is just shameless propaganda, shameless lies. Okay, let's keep going.
You're never going to see your kids again. You got to get out. And especially if you don't.
When martial law was enacted, one of the key aspects of it is that it's not a perpetual martial law. It's reinstituted every 90 days, right? And everyone here understands that we are living under martial law. And some parts of martial law are very draconian. What you're talking about, some of the issues of speech, etc., we have to weigh Ukraine's national security interest versus the human right, the God-given right of what we know in the United States as the First Amendment.
Yeah.
So we have to make these choices. And if you make the choice after multiple 90-day extensions of this martial law over the course of Lira was picked up in April of 22, released, and then so May of 22 until a year. Basically, he was picked up again in late April, early May of 23. You were talking about at least 4 extensions of martial law after he had been released. He made the choice willingly and ably to continue to engage in the type of practices that he was told ran against and were afoul of the laws taking place under martial law. The RADA can lift it anytime they want. It's passed by the RADA, and that's where we're at. Ultimately, I will stand up for many, many folks. I think one of the biggest champions that we have comes from or lives part-time in Nevada, a guy named Mark Randonza, who's an extreme First Amendment lawyer. A lot of times I'll just say whatever this guy's saying is what I back. And if we were in a country that they were trying to treat people like this that was not under martial law, I think I would have a very different viewpoint of it. But we know.
Man, I really admire how much restraint this guy has, not losing it like the way I couldn't be able to I wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to stop myself from telling Kim Iversen how I feel about her opinion. It's interesting. It's interesting to see. I admire him. I respect him for the restraint that he has to just explain to this person how things work. So yeah, let's keep going. Oh, I'm seeing some. Let's see. Some chats. I'm sorry. Let me see. They poke his eye. That's why he didn't try to save himself, even if he was offered a way out. He did try. He did try to escape when it was already too late. He tried to cross the Hungary, the border with Hungary. So he did try. He didn't try to save himself, even if he was offered a way out. I don't know what you're talking about, sir. He tried to escape. That does count. So I'm sorry. What you're saying is incorrect. Okay, so let's keep going.
No, and I'm not trying to dumb it down, but we know the rules of the game under martial law here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with martial law, but I do understand. But I haven't fully fleshed it out whether or not I, really agree with it or not.
What is wrong with this person? What is wrong with this person? But then again, you know what? As I mentioned to you guys, I'm a former I'm a Navy veteran. I'm a former military Navy sailor. I martial law, unfortunately, is necessary. You have to sacrifice your freedom for the safety of others. That's the simplest way I can explain martial law. It is not about oppressing people's freedoms for the convenience of the people at the top. It is sacrificing your freedoms to save the lives of innocent people. It's like, and you'll see right now what he's let's hear a little bit more. I'm gonna show you why this person is just so stupid.
On a surface, I don't agree with martial law, but I understand that martial law has been implemented at times of war, and it's meant for national security. People are not allowed to turn their lights on after a certain time. That used to be a thing to protect from bombing and knowing where the cities were and whatnot. So, but I understand. I understand your point of view on this. What is a propagandist anyway? From your perspective, I've been listed by Ukraine and some of their publications that they put out of, I'm one of those 300 people that they consider to be a Russian propagandist.
Yep. This is what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kim Iversen. I wonder why the mainstream networks are not coming to her to offer her a job working at CNN. I wonder why. Because she doesn't understand what a propagandist is. Can you believe that? Can you believe that this person has a YouTube and a Rumble channel where she promotes talks about the news and all that stuff, and she doesn't know the definition of what a propagandist is? Let me show you really fast. Propaganda, information, especially of a bias or misleading nature, used to promote a particular cause, doctrine, or a point of view. So what is a propagandist? What is a propagandist? A person who promotes or publicizes a particular organization or cause. So that's simple. That is simple. You cannot be spreading misinformation. That is what a propagandist is. Someone who spreads lies and misinformation. And Kim Iversen constantly lies. One of her lies was that she said, and I quote, in the video where she's reading the Freedom of Information records that the Gateway Pundit obtained. She says, we have where is it? What did she say? We have evidence that Gonzalo Lira was tortured in prison. That right there is a lie. Kim Iversen never saw with her own eyes any proof that Gonzalo Lira was tortured. there is no evidence that Gonzalo Lira was tortured. There are no scars in his eye. The scratching the white with a toothpick will leave you lacerations that will not heal overnight. That without medication, your eye will get worse. It will get infected, especially if you're in a prison. And when Gonzalo Lira came out, he was, yeah, they scratched my eye with a toothpick and I got a broken rib, but you know what? I have taken worse beatings. There was no evidence. And this person in that video said, we have evidence that Gonzalo was tortured. She's a propagandist. That's why she's called a propagandist. And the worst part is that she doesn't know what a propagandist is. Okay, let's keep going.
They listed myself and like Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson. And, there's like a whole slew of people who've been listed. Donald Trump, the president of the United States, is listed in this as well. That's also, that's one of the beefs that many of us have had in the support of Ukraine, is that they are doing things that are, again, that just listing me without any evidence. I don't take a single dime from Russians. I don't have any contacts. Well, I take that. I have had the ambassador to the UN, the Russian ambassador to the UN, on the show twice. So that's
okay. Hold on. You heard what she said, that propagandists get paid. That in order to be a propagandist, you have to get paid. I don't see anywhere here on the description of what a propagandist is that you need to get paid in order to become a propagandist. Where does it say that only propagandists get paid by spreading misinformation? Okay. Check this out. On my content, I made a video long ago about let's see, 50 down here. This video down here, this one right here, Coach Red Pill, Gonzalo Lira, the double-edged sword of free speech in Ukraine. In that video, I show an example of how dangerous propaganda is. There is a story of a Japanese pilot who landed in a Hawaiian island, and he managed to brainwash Hawaiian residents who were of Japanese origin. And he managed to brainwash them into fighting on behalf of the Japanese Empire. He got people killed because he convinced them that fighting on behalf of the Russian Empire was something good for them. So that's how dangerous propaganda is. You don't need to get paid to be a propagandist if you're helping a cause by spreading misinformation and lies. And this person who has a YouTube channel and a Rumble channel doesn't know what a propagandist is. Dude, how stupid this person is. Okay, let's keep going.
And I actually don't have his contact. That was facilitated. Those interviews were facilitated, and all I asked him about was the latest events. It wasn't anything special. But other than that, I don't have any contacts. I don't have any money coming from Russia. I don't have any of that. So why are we being labeled? Why is Ukraine labeling us? And, it seems like maybe you even agreed with that labeling.
Well, there's some people, and again, nuance isn't always best for television, but I'll say Jackson Hinkle's a propagandist. He's a guy who somehow is showing up in.
But what makes him? He's got certain opinions, right? He's certainly putting himself out there with those opinions. But what is that? How does that make him because propaganda has to be. You're a propagandist then, right? Because
I was.
More so.
I'm no longer, but I was.
Okay, so because when you're paid to actually, like a propagandist to me would have to be paid.
The world doesn't work according to your opinions, Kim Iversen. Are you stupid? Seriously? You think that the world works because you you believe in certain things, that's how things should be. I show already what the definition of a propagandist is. Money doesn't have to be involved when it comes to spreading misinformation. If you are helping the cause of a party, you can be a propagandist. You don't need to get paid in order to be a propagandist. And this person is so stupid to tell people that only propagandists become propagandists because they get paid. No, man, stupid. She's so stupid.
Directly by the source to propagate certain information. And there's been, like, for example, here in the American media during COVID, I would say a lot of the news outlets became propagandists because they were paid by the big pharmaceutical companies to basically push the vaccine. And that makes you no longer, now, whether you think that they should have pushed it or not is, to me, beside the point on propaganda. It's, are you being paid to say something and we don't actually know your personal or journalistic viewpoint outside of that payment, right? That to me is propaganda. So do you think Jackson Hinkle is taking money and he's being told to propagate a certain narrative that he maybe otherwise would not if he wasn't being paid?
You know, when Jackson Hinkle shows up in Lebanon on the ground at the Nasrallah funeral, when Jackson Hinkle shows up in Moscow in close contact with high-ranking members of the Kremlin, including Lavrov, you understand that the money is coming from somewhere. So if it was you speaking to the UN ambassador, who I know has a relationship with Hinkle, but you're doing it on your show because you want to hear this guy's opinion, that's not propaganda. You are choosing to give space to your guest. In the case of Hinkle, where he's showing up in Lebanon, where he's showing up in Moscow, where he was running around praising Syria, these are viewpoints that are very fluid. They are questionable in the sense of when you are looking at the sourcing of the where and why and how. You are asking legitimate questions of me right now. They are pointed questions, but they're legitimate questions. You are engaging in legitimate, fair journalism. When somebody's just giving hot takes on Twitter that are very much to the extreme of one side or the other, hey, like me at the time, victory is Ukraine, and Ukraine has already won, whatever the catchphrases I would come up with to throw out there, that was my job. And so that's the difference. And one of the regrets I have is that I will no longer be able to, I will be looked at as an opinion, maybe an editorialist, an opinion writer, definitely an author. But nobody will ever look at me as a serious journalist because of my year and a half here and what I chose to do to engage in what I understand to be a just war. Well, the war is not just. The Russians shouldn't have started it, but a just cause on behalf of Ukraine. And so I believe you were talking about the Mirovitz Peacemaker site, the butterfly site, which goes and they take these batches of people and they put them on there. One of the failures of the Biden administration is that they chose to be so quiet on many controversial topics coming out of Ukraine. And that was one of my areas of frustration. And it wasn't just that. I mean, I came out of the trip to the southern border with very harsh critiques of the Biden administration because I saw with my own eyes what was happening down there. And I came out and I said, we need to have Dean Phillips at least get some attention. And I was a supporter of Andrew Yang in 2020. So to understand sort of where my background would be on Democratic politics. And so one of my frustrations with the Biden administration is that the United States did not take on a firmer and stronger leadership role in the eyes of the world in explaining the clear reasons for why we were fighting this just war.
Yeah, I have to agree with Sir Ashton-Cirillo. Unfortunately, the Biden administration they messed up big time, and not only the Biden administration, also unfortunately the Obama administration also they messed up too, because when the Russians annexed Crimea, Obama he sent blankets. I mean, at least Donald Trump, at least he is the one who gave them, who gave Ukraine anti-tank missiles I forgot the name of the missile of the javelins. At least Trump gave the Ukrainians javelins to fight against the Russians. Unfortunately, of course, Trump wanted the Ukrainians to find dirt about his political opponents. But, the javelins was a step, was much better than the blankets that Obama gave them. So that is one of the things, unfortunately. You know what? It's so sad that the Biden administration made so many mistakes, and most of the video right now, or this video right here is gonna be about Sarah Ashton-Cirillo talking against the criticizing the Biden administration, and unfortunately, he goes more into his opinions about the flush of immigrants into Europe and the United States, how dangerous it is to have open borders. And unfortunately, he makes some valid points. And the stuff that he says, it sounds Islamophobic, but he's talking out of first-hand experience. And a lot of people are just on the left. A lot of people are not going to like what he says. But that's unrelated to Gonzalo Lira, right? So I think that at this point, it is okay to stop the video. Ashton doesn't talk about Gonzalo Lira anymore. From here on, he just goes into talking more about his experiences on Syria and all that stuff. And like I say, if you guys want to watch the whole video, I don't know if I can put a link for Rumble, but the name of the video is right there. Why did Sarah Ashton-Cirillo help jail Gonzalo Lira and his side of the story? And this is this was a good thing that Kim Iversen, as much as I dislike her, as much as I dislike how dumb she sounds when she claims that she doesn't know what a propagandist is, at least I have to give her credit that she let Sarah Ashton, talk her side of the story, his side of the story. Man, this whole transgender stuff is so difficult. But oh well. So yeah, it's been already 2 hours and 28 minutes, and my blood pressure hasn't gone that high, which is good. That means I did good. But yeah, unfortunately, it's something sad that there's still a lot of people who doesn't believe that Gonzalo Lira was a propagandist, unfortunately, but that's why I'm here for, to continue making Gonzalo Lira videos. But this is a good moment to transition to explain where this channel is gonna be heading to. I see that there's only like 2 viewers watching right now. There's 3 right there. It says that it shows 3. One of them is my extra YouTube account, because I'm checking that that everything's going well. So yeah, for those 2 people that are watching, thank you. I don't know if one of them is the real red bot. My God, this guy, he's such a dumbass. But oh well. So yeah. So So as I already explained, this channel, I am going to start, talking more about. I'm going to start talking more about what's happening here in America. Donald Trump is trying to turn America into a dictatorship, into he's using ICE to oppress his the people, and that's not good. two American citizens, white American citizens, have been shot to death, unfortunately. There was a Hispanic, a Latino man who was gunned down too. The ICE has shot innocent people multiple times. Some people, only got away with bullet wounds, but we saw on video how vicious these animals are, and how we have to do something to fight back. This is no longer a thing about that we can just let go. We have to stand up against oppression. Donald Trump is a dictator wannabe. He's trying to transform America into a dictatorship like North Korea, where he's going to use his goons to persecute anybody who speaks against him. And we cannot let that happen. People are marching on the streets. People are waking up. People like Joe Rogan are speaking and criticizing, calling ICE the Gestapo. And that is a good thing, because if we lose America, if Trump gets away with it and transform America into a dictatorship, we're not gonna get it back. America could become Russia on steroids, and that is dangerous. For people who are not keeping up with what is happening in Russia right now, people who are not looking at the nature, why so many Russians are dying on the battlefield. If you don't see the reason, you don't see how dangerous it is, the direction that Donald Trump wants to take the country to. The whole nature is this. Look, in Ukraine, in the war in Ukraine, Russians are dying by the thousands every day because they are poor. They are just dirt poor. The Russian government keeps the population poor. So when they need soldiers to go die on the battlefield, they persuade them by offering them money. They offer them more money that they could earn in a whole year, and they say, "Here, go fight for us. Help us spread our empire." And the guys go and they die. The Russians are dying every day, thousands of them every day. That could happen in America if we let Donald Trump get away with it. If you notice, the job reports have been bad. There are no new job creations in America right now because we're in a recession. People could go through the same thing that Russians are going through in the future. If America becomes a haven for oligarchs, they're gonna keep all the money, and everybody else, all of us, are gonna be dirt poor. Our children are gonna be dirt poor, and when the Republicans, or maybe Trump's children, when they want to invade a country because they just don't like how things are going over there, or because they want to steal the resources, it's going to be easy for them to send soldiers to die on those wars, because everybody's going to be so poor in America. People are going to join the military because they're paying well to go die on a war that will only benefit the rich. That's why it is important for me to transform this channel into fighting against Trump and the dictatorship that he's trying to create here in America. So that's where my channel is gonna go to. This live stream is the first one of many. I'm going to start streaming more often. I'm going to start showing what's happening in the country. 2026 is an important year. The midterms are happening in November. Donald Trump is going to try to oppress the elections. He's going to try to oppress people into taking his power away from him, the power away from him. And that's dangerous. We're in a very dangerous time right now in America. People are seeing what's happening. People saw what happened to Alex Petty, and the other lady, her last name is good. The people saw and they are enraged. They are angry, just like me. Saturday and Sunday, I was a mess. I was just emotionally torn apart because of what I was watching on. I don't want to get emotional, but I just want to say that this is it, man. I'm going to start speaking against Trump. I'm going to start speaking against ICE. I'm going to try to help the left and the progressive movement try to get the power back. We're going to try to get the Democrats win back the Senate and the House in November. We're going to try to impeach and kick out of office Donald Trump. And we're going to try to go again and arrest all those criminals that are killing innocent people in the streets. So yeah, that's the plan. That's what I'm going to try to do in this channel. I'm going to try to stream more often. I'm going to make a commitment, and we need to get together and fight back against the tyranny and against dictatorship. Trump is trying to turn this country into North Korea, and we cannot let that happen for the future of your future generations. We cannot let Donald Trump a nice win. So yes, this is doing from now on. On my last stream, I told people that I didn't know what I wanted to do with this channel anymore. And I after what happened this past weekend, yeah, we need to fight back. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So yeah, so that's it. It was 2 hours and 40 minutes almost of this my third live stream, and you know what? It wasn't that bad. I crashed out a little bit, but that's okay, because you know what, man, so many things. But oh well. So yes, I see that there's 4 more people watching. Thank you very much for joining. This is the end of the of the stream. If you guys want to watch the rest, the beginning was a little rough because I messed up on the Streamlabs. I clicked a button that I wasn't supposed to click, and I couldn't get the stream started on time. I said I was going to start the stream at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and I ended up going online like 5 minutes later because I couldn't find what I did wrong. But that's it. From now on, I'm gonna be streaming, promoting, speaking against Trump and against ICE. I'm gonna be trying to help the cause. Gonna try to help the Democrats win back the House and the Senate on November, and we need to do it because the future depends on our actions now. That stupid asshole, the real red bot, claims that politics are boring. Well, they are not boring when people are dying because people didn't know what political candidate to vote for in the elections. A lot of people voted for Trump because they didn't know how bad it could get. And now we're seeing what happened when you elect a convicted criminal as a president. I mean, God damn it. But that I'm gonna save that for next time. Right now is a good time to end the stream. Thank you very much for people who watch this. If you like, please subscribe, click a thumbs up, and thanks again. This is Fox Hunter, and thank you again.